Hello and welcome to another episode of the Contractor Grow Show. My name is Mark, and today I'm really excited to interview Dan and Jill Rondinelli here in Denver. They have an amazing service that they offer, and I'm really excited to kind of unpack what you guys do. Dan and Jill, thank you so much for being with us today. So, usually we start this show by kind of digging into the history of the company, how it got started. I'm really excited about the service that you guys provide. It's a tool for contractors, and I think that a lot of listeners to this show could really use it, and it would help them really streamline their operations. So before we talk about history, we'll talk about some of that. You guys' long history in the business, but please let listeners know, what tool do you guys offer? What does it do, and how does it help contractors?
So we use a learning management system to help take the orientation lift off of job site teams. What Dan had found in his business was it's a huge lift, not just to stand out and orient them in person, but then it's the whole paperwork side. And what happens when the paperwork gets lost, or you need to have a quick audit, or OSHA stops by, you're rummaging through desk drawers to find it. So I have a background in instructional design, and so we have two options. We have our own library, which is really a basic orientation broken down into microlearning modules with a tested competency at the end of each module. And it helps to keep the workers engaged while they're running through the orientation. And they can't move on to the next part of another module until they've passed the existing module that they're taking. And at the end, once they've successfully completed it, they get a certificate of completion that has a unique number. Every oriented worker gets a unique certificate number that's uploaded into a reporting system. So in a nutshell, that's what it is. They can take it on a computer, or they can click a QR code. 90% of the workers are taking a QR code that's posted at the job site, or some companies have been issuing the QR code via email or in meetings. And so some of them are oriented before they even show up on the job site. It kind of depends how the general contractor wants to manage that.
Great. So as I understand it, OSHA has got some really important requirements on job sites, and like CFR 1926.20 for commercial, heavy highway, residential construction companies. Companies like that, they really need to deal with kind of OSHA compliance, and it's not necessarily a very easy thing for them to do. They're tracking people's sort of compliance steps, or they're companies, contractors that are out dealing with this OSHA requirement. They have to really track and make sure that someone is completely, compliant. And you guys software, is it software? Is there an app? Does it go on someone's phone, or how does that work?
Well, two things to backtrack on that. OSHA also requires that it's site specific. So there's this basic orientation about different, ladder safety, crane safety, trench safety, but then it also has to be site specific. And so our orientation has a site specific section, but we basically have a learning management system that the workers are accessing via a QR code. So it's not an app. That's a whole nother can of worms that, a lot of states say, well, if you're requiring somebody to have a special app on their phone, well, then you've got to pay for their phone, so it's not an app. They're just simply accessing it via 90% of the time, a QR code at the job sites or at home before they come in, but they can also watch it on a computer screen via a link.
Okay, fantastic. And then Dan, if a company was trying to figure this out there on their own before they worked with Safe Job Site US, and now they have you guys tool in-house, they know how to use it, what is the result that they would have? How does their life become easier? How does compliance become, more consistent? What is the result that they get out of using your tool?
Yeah, Mark, that's a great question. What's really cool is, we co-manage that process with the general contractor. And so we come alongside them. We connect with their job site teams. We work with them to pull the site-specific information that they're wanting to tell all their workers about to keep their workers safe. And then we have a live report that basically pushes all that data to the supervisors on the job site. And so they're able to check real time what the status of each worker is on the job. So they can just look up on their device and see, Javier's, 65% complete. And usually they hand out a job site numbered hard hat sticker. And so from that hard hat sticker, They can tell just by a quick look across the job site who's been oriented or not. And if you don't have a job site hard hat sticker, then they know that, hey, wait a minute, you got to come in and take our orientation. So that's part of that compliance that we've been talking about, which is just super helpful.
And I imagine you guys have come across plenty of job sites that are not compliant before they were able to find your tool. I mean, what are the negative consequences if OSHA shows up, or if basically a job isn't compliant? I mean, what can the negative result be for a contractor?
Well, the negative results they can be kind of devastating. If it's kind of like one of the first things that if you do have an OSHA inspector come to your site, it's like they hit you like with a basic list of things like, what is your hazard communication plan? What is your site specific safety plan that you've got in the job site trailer? And how are you orienting the workers? And one of the other things that's really critical is that the orientation is in the native language of the worker. And so we take the English orientation that Jill was mentioning, and we actually translate it. We have construction translators that work with us that translate that orientation into Spanish, because we've done the data and it supports about, what is it, Jill? Like
78%.
Yeah, 78% of the workers are Spanish speaking.
Wow.
And so quite a few. We just take that heavy lift off the job site team so they can focus on more critical items that like schedule updating, material procurement, subcontractor management, quality control, all those things that can be considered kind of, if they're not paying attention to those things and they're paying attention to being compliant, we work with them and shoulder that burden and help them co-manage that process.
Amazing.
I think the fine now is over $15,000 per unoriented worker, or maybe it's $16,000 now, I think.
Wow.
So when they show up and ask, how are you ordering your workers? And you're not, it's per unoriented worker.
Jeez.
So it can be hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines for that. But I also wanted to say really quick that our platform has the ability to do closed captioning in over 70 languages. So yes, we have a pre-made Spanish just because it's such a huge percentage, but we can also do Russian, Portuguese, Polish, pick 70 other languages, and we can have it translated into that via closed captioning. So, sometimes when I sit in these safety meetings with OSHA, I'm just like, wow. I mean, you're expecting a lot from, I don't know how people do construction to begin with. Like, I have so much respect for anybody in the industry because it's just so fast paced. There's so much going on. And now you've got to orient people in Portuguese. I mean, how do you do that? I just don't know how you do it. So anyway, again, we just take that lift, and it's one less thing for them to worry about and to focus on. And I think there's a lot of ways that you can automate that presentation part, but it's just the reporting. I've heard some companies say there's hours a week are spending on just the paperwork. And so I think what differentiates us really is our reporting system. It's just
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. So I've taken a look at you guys' backgrounds. I mean, you guys have got just a ton of professional certifications, just a lot of credentials. I'd seen, I don't know exactly how long both of you have been in the industry. I saw that you've been building for 30 years. Ultimately, it's a family effort. Maybe you guys could just shed some light on how this product came to be, because I get the sense that it came out from industry experience and seeing a hole in the marketplace and kind of like, this thing is needed over here. It doesn't exist, so we're going to create it.
Okay, funny story. It came about because I didn't want to hear Dan complain anymore during COVID. It literally was a company that came out of COVID, and he was in industry at the time, and they were building, I think it was some big hotel. I don't remember. They had just hundreds of workers on that. And he would come home and complain every day. Oh, my guys are so mad. They got to orient. Everybody's got to stand 6 feet apart. We got to do it twice a day. It's just killing us. And I kept saying, I have background in instructional design. And I was like, I could just make you something. You don't even have to deal with that. And they can sit in their truck. They don't have to worry about COVID germs. And so finally it got bad enough that he's like, okay, I'll let you do that. And it was funny because the safety person that they had on that job was like, I hate online stuff. I'm not doing that. And so Dan's like, okay, well, you can just keep doing it the way you're doing it during COVID. And anyway, it was funny because she sent me a recording. Dan gave her a headset and she spoke on some kind of, I don't even know what probably PowerPoint or something. I don't remember, but it took me 2 weeks to edit out all the ums and ahs.
Huh.
And so anyway, she wound up loving it. It saved her so much time. And she's like, now I can go on the job and I can actually talk to the workers one-on-one. I'm not spending all my time delivering the orientation. And then it just kind of spread. And I told Dan, I'm like, I can't keep editing the ums and ahs. I'm like, we need to just come up with some kind of a basic orientation that these people can use. And then it just grew. I mean, we didn't even have a platform for it. We were using Dan's other platform, which is called the Construction Mastery Institute. We were just putting it on that. And so finally it just got to the point. It's like, we just need to, and here we are, you know, in the last 4 years, we've oriented over 8,000 workers and we're on over 60 job sites from just getting my husband to stop complaining. Like, it's just so
Classic.
funny. It's so funny how it's just growing. And I think the reason, I'm talking way too much, but a lot of companies, they spend all this money developing some kind of software and they're like, well, this is what it does. And then the companies have to react and change the way they do things to fit the software. And I think the reason why we're growing is because we're the opposite of that. We have this small procedure that we do, but then when the client asks us, oh, it'd be nice if you could do that. And so we'll ask our programmer, and, you know, in a few weeks, we've solved another problem. So we're changing how we do things to fit the industry, not the other way around. And that's how I think we just keep growing for that reason.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, well, Mark, the one thing I'd add too is we're not a technology company. We are constructors. We have a system that's built by constructors for constructors. And so that really makes a difference because we've been in the shoes of our client. And so we know what their pain points are. We know what their pinch points are. We know how much time and money we can save them. And we've got one of our clients that I pulled some numbers from. They're on pace to save over $200,000 this year if you take the amount of time that they're saving, if they would do this orientation process with in-house services, with this repetitive process we're talking about. And so that's what's pretty amazing is that they start usually on one project and then the word spreads at the water cooler. And then all of a sudden everybody's like, hey, what are you using over there? It seems like I'm hearing some chatter about what's going on, and then one thing leads to another, and they just want it on multiple projects. Numbers also are over 350,000 that we saved them since they started. They started with one project, kind of wanted to test the waters, which is totally fine by us. We have month-to-month contracts. We want to earn our customers' business every month. And that comes from me being on the other side of the fence as a constructor, where it's like, I hate long-term contracts. We're not an enterprise solution where it's like a one-size-fits-all, like Jill was saying. We come alongside and we match the technology to their process and system instead of, like Jill said, force fitting it the other way around.
That is amazing. You know, I've looked a little bit and seen that some of the values that you guys run the company with are fantastic. I mean, I think kind of off the cuff, we just learned that you guys are a debt-free company. I just love to hear that. It says so much about the way that you guys are running things. And also something that you just alluded to, Dan, just kind of mentioned, is something that I just really love. And I'd like to kind of point this out. So, you know, a lot of companies, especially in any type of software training space, they have big, long contracts. You know, in many cases, it's multi-year contracts and or kind of a big kind of process of signing up and getting involved with that company. I mean, there's just a hardcore sort of onboarding process. Is it correct that you guys, you're month to month, you don't have long-term contracts, and almost your statement is, look, just try us for one job site. Like the idea is try us out there and see how it works. I mean, basically your tool is so useful and so helpful for the builders that you work with that after, you know, one job, they're going to see how much they're saving. And that's just the natural, organic ways that you guys have built a business. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. We call it easy yes. And so we just want it to be like low to no pressure. We understand, you know, the dynamics of construction. Probably the only constant is change in construction. And so with that said, we just know that it's not going to be a fit for every single company. It's not going to be a fit for every single project within a company. And I mean, we hope it becomes an enterprise solution, but it doesn't have to be an enterprise solution. And that's what we think is really powerful with the way we've got it set up with month to month, project by project. We do the billings directly to the job site teams. So it's not tied up in a bunch of bureaucracy back at the home office. And so we put the power at the hands of the project team that's getting the most benefit. And usually when you listen to their pain points and help them, then it's usually pretty easy for them to, say yes month after month.
Amazing. Yeah, Jill, go ahead.
I would agree with Dan. It's not for every size project. And I think that that's why it is an easy yes. Just try it on one. Like we have a new company that we've been working with, and they have these crazy projects that they're building. And I'm so excited to have them on board, but that's how it started. Just try us on one job site. And then now, every few months I'll get an email from a new job site team that says, oh, we want to put you on ours. But, they might also do real small jobs, and it just doesn't maybe make sense if it's going to last a month. Well, just orient them in person. But yeah, I like the flexibility of that. We had one company that gave us this amazing site-specific section with a script and everything. And so that job site, I'm glad that they gave us that, because they're going to have thousands of people go through that job. But then other job sites are, no, we just want to know where the muster points are. And so it can be as dynamic as they want it to be, or as simple as they want it to be.
Fantastic. So Dan, I saw you spent 35 years on a job site. Jill, I noticed that you have spent some time actually as a teacher. And, I've done a lot of teaching myself, not in schools, but actually, video type teaching and teaching in different industries and things. And what I've found is that the experience that I have in an industry, I have experience in a few, doesn't necessarily translate to teaching something well. So Jill, how does the kind of degree that you have and the background that you have kind of in information design, as well as teaching in a school, how did that add to this and turn this into kind of a great sort of platform? How has your background helped you understand the quality of kind of teaching and laying information out in a structured way?
I think it all comes down to presentation. Like I've had some teachers that were absolutely horrible, but I loved what they were talking about. And so I would pay attention just because I was interested. And then I have had other teachers where I love the subject, but they're just awful and they're distracting. And so I think what makes what we do so interesting was really all the years of experience I had in instructional design. And it's easy to make construction interesting. You've got these great bulldozers and you've got great video. And so we embed all that great video and stuff. And so I think when the workers are taking these orientations, like, I do work in a cool industry. We do some really cool stuff. Look at this building, is really cool. Or, yeah, that's a big trench. Or I think it's easy to make it interesting. One, because, and this is kind of sad, we used to have a survey at the end of our orientations. And one of the Spanish speaking workers wrote, I had no idea the hazards associated with my job. It kind of chokes me up that how many workers die every year in the construction industry? It's a lot. Construction leads the industry in deaths. And so some people have an attitude of like, I already know it, I don't need it. So they're going to be drawn in by the cool videos and all the heavy equipment and the cool buildings. Other people are drawn because they're like, wow, I am risking my life every day. I may not go home to my family. I don't want to take any of the credit for it. I just think construction is a really cool industry and it's interesting to watch, So, but I think it's just like, to answer your question, I just think all those years in the education field, it's like, if you can capture their attention, they're probably going to learn something. And that's basically what it comes down to, because we have total control over the video. Our oldest son, I always say, he makes us look good, and our younger son makes us sound good. And so you put it in their two hands and it's kind of like a winning combination. So, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Mark, one thing also on that is with our platform, you can revisit the content, and we've had great feedback where the workers go back and they rewatch some of the content. And that's just aligns with one of our core values, which is just kind of being servant leaders. And we just feel like in the construction industry, it seems like there needs to be more of that sort of focus on the worker and kind of that servant leadership where you're just trying to do whatever it takes to help. I know it's easy to fall into the trap of, squeezing people harder and getting more out of them kind of thing. But the idea is that, if you pay attention, listen to them, and like Jill said, make the content interesting, and then make it available for them to revisit. We also have downloadable content. So like Jill mentioned, the muster points and different things that would be hard to memorize, they can download a copy of it and have it themselves right there, so they can see where the parking area is, where the muster point is, where the first aid kit is. So all that stuff can be downloaded, and they can digitally have it on their phone if they want.
And that was another thing that was coming back on the surveys, is people were saying, I didn't feel comfortable asking in a face-to-face orientation in front of a group of other workers. I didn't want to raise my hand and disrupt the orientation, but they valued being able to go back and watch it on their own if they didn't understand something. And also, if they get to the quiz portion and they can't answer quiz, they can go back and rewatch it and make sure they understand it.
Interesting. You know this very well. I mean, something that's really facing the industry these days, construction, contracting, is that it's hard to find team and it's hard to retain team. Your wages have gone up. There's all kinds of sort of headwinds with people kind of finding and really having a team member become ultimately profitable, right? Which is very important, which is often after a long series of training. I mean, without you guys' tool, how would someone become trained and compliant in OSHA? I mean, it's just they walk onto a job site and someone says, you got to do this and you need to wear your hard hat. I mean, how has that traditionally been done? I mean, I know that it's, a problem that you guys are solving. I mean, has anybody even taken this on? I mean, maybe Dan, how traditionally has this been handled at all?
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Mark. One of the things to kind of distinguish is training versus orientations. The training part it's called the duty clause. That's part of the OSHA standards that you were referencing. So the duty clause means that the responsibility to actually train the worker lies on the employer to train their own employees. But in that same, and that's the other thing, is it's not optional. This is federal law. So it is law. So part of it is just making sure contractors understand that if they don't do it, they're breaking the law. And we find some of our clients don't even realize they're breaking the law and know that it is something that they're required. But what if you're a controlling contractor, which means you control the site, which most general contractors or prime contractors are, it's your responsibility to orient the worker as they step across that fence line into the job site of all the hazards that are in there. So we're working, like Jill said, we're working around trenches, we're working at heights, there's shock hazards, there's pinching and caught between hazards. I mean, there's all kinds of hazards in here. And so one of the things that our platform does is it allows the worker to self-describe if they feel like they've been trained adequately for those hazards. And so we have coders that work for us. And one of the things that came from just us having an ear to the ground and wanting to serve our
listen to our clients. Yeah,
listen to our clients is this. We say we're like a what if partner. So we're like, our clients will come to us and say, hey, what if we could track this stuff? Like, what if we could have an acknowledgement form that says the worker feels comfortable that they've been trained in these areas? And so that's where we put that information in our platform, and they can self-declare whether they feel safe and they've been trained adequately. And if not, then it's up to the general contractor to work with the supervision and leadership of that subcontractor to say, hey, you really got to help your employees out because they're not feeling comfortable with the training that you're giving them. And then all of a sudden that becomes like a gap that is declared basically through our orientation system.
Interesting. Okay.
But it shows up on the report. It always goes back to the report. The report shows their response to the OSH Act and the PPE and yeah.
But also to circle back with how you mentioned how some contractors do it, sort of the traditional way, we've seen a combination of things. They'll maybe create their own PowerPoint in-house, and then they'll put people in a conference room and just have them watch that and then issue them the certificate afterwards, or not, but a hard hat sticker. They'll have them sign it. Some will just stand around, they'll kick rocks outside the job and kind of run through it as quick as possible and then pass a signature page around. And you get people like Elvis signs it. It's not really taken that seriously. What we have is a one-to-one relationship between the worker putting in their name, putting in their email address, and then it gets double checked before the general contractor issues the hard hat sticker. So it really adds to the quality of the data and the quality of the experience. So it's not just a 5-minute, you can call it a pencil whip or whatever. Like some people just say, yeah, whatever, my boss made me do it, but I got a million other things to do today. So I'm just going to pencil whip it and get it done. And that's where the worker gets sacrificed because of the because of that. They're not getting the right training. They don't even know what hazards are out there. They just sign a piece of paper and get patted on the back and slap their hard hat on. And that's where our system really helps kind of worker focus.
Not all companies have a great experienced superintendent or safety person that delivers a quality orientation. Some of them have great stories, and we've heard one company say that their orientation is 2 hours long, that he delivers in person. Well, not all companies have that, or that guy is being called out into the field. And so when the workers showed up that morning to get oriented, he's out with the concrete pour. They couldn't be rescheduled, And so this way, the workers are definitely, they're getting a quality, a consistent safety message across all their projects, because that was another issue where we were running into is one job site doesn't orient properly on the ladder. And then they come to another job within the same company and they're like, well, the other job site lets me do this. So it's just having a consistent safety message across your company.
Interesting. Amazing. Well, fantastic, guys. You guys got a beautiful website, a lot of great information over there. Take a look at that. If folks are in need of, OSHA orientation training for their crew and want a way to make that kind of asynchronous, it's not this expensive, 2-hour meeting where you've got 20 guys showing up and they're paying, a few $1,000s for that. But it can happen sort of a little more, in different times with people, if it can be very structured. What are great ways for folks to find out more about your product and get in touch with you guys?
Well, the website is a great place to start. There's a button on the top page that'll take you to a digital brochure that pretty much goes through from A to Z. I think that would be great before they contact us. Make sure that we're a good fit to begin with. And then if they scroll to the bottom, there's a place where they can send an email in, or in the top banner, they can schedule like a free demo. Okay,
fantastic. And that is at safejobsite.us, just like it sounds.
Yeah.
Great. Well, guys, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been a great show. I've taken a look at this product some just from the website, but it looks like it really solves a lot of problems. I love what you guys are doing. I love when people bring systemization to things and, move the industry forward. So thank you for being on the show and for sharing what you guys do. And we'd love to have you on the show at some point again in the future.
Sounds great. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, guys, have a great day.
Awesome to see you.
Bye.